Hello, everyone. I'm so happy to be here with you today. Excited to connect with a new community. I know that this is a theme that I'm sensing in 2022, a theme of connection. So I look forward to getting to know you. You can reach out to me at vibementor.com at any point now or later if you'd like to connect further. So I'm here today to just kind of tell you my story and let you know a little bit about who I am and how I got to where I am and how you may have gone through some of the same things I have and how I've overcome them. So hopefully there'll be some value in this for you. So going all the way back to early childhood, I was a very bubbly, vibrant little girl, very excited about life, very happy, naive. And I was ready to conquer the world. I was born with the drive to do something that mattered and to change the world. And I used to play with daytimers instead of Barbie dolls. I just had a plan for my life. And it was pretty interesting that as I, especially got older, ages 5 and 7, maybe even 10, I consistently got this message of you're too happy, you're too bubbly, you're too energetic, you're too excited, you're too much, right? I was also very sensitive and extremely empathic. And so when I could sense the energy around me and I could sense that people were not happy with happiness, which was very, very strange, very difficult to understand why people preferred unhappiness. And I would hear people say, "That's okay. You're young. You're naive. They'll educate the happiness right out of you, or you'll mature and you'll come down to earth and you'll grow out of it." And it was pretty unfortunate because I had such a big heart. But unfortunately, it did end up proving to be true that they kind of educated it right out of me to use the words that they used. I felt that even though they were telling me this, that I was going to remain determined, I was not going to lose my zest for life. I had a knowing in my heart, and knowing was always the Claire that I led with, that knowing as a child I was going to do something great in the world, and knowing that no matter what they said, that I wasn't going to let that die. And there was a time that I did let that die. I did sort of have the life squeezed out of me, if you will, and my spirit was broken. And unfortunately, my childhood was pretty rocky. I actually had a minister for a father. So there was a lot of guilt and shame in the church, and we were broken sinners, and we should repent, and we're going to hell, and a lot of indications that we were bad, that there was something wrong with all of us, and especially me. And so the message was being delivered in many different ways, that just not enoughness, right? There was something wrong with me. And so, of course, over time, with the religious negative messages about who I was, along with culturally, my friends, society, and even pop culture. It was cool to be depressed. I remember, unfortunately, the death of Kurt Cobain, and just that era around melancholy, and I received that subconscious message that it was better to be mellow and to be sad. And so while it may have been a conscious choice at a small moment of my life, it actually became a habit and became a lifestyle. And I did fall into depression and anxiety and unhealthy coping mechanisms. My family fell apart. I went through a divorce and many, many moves, especially in my high school years. And that's when I really plummeted into a deep, deep depression, and just filled journal after journal about why, asking these questions. Why is this happening? Why is the world this way? Why do I feel this way? How do I feel better? And then looking back at those journals, it's just journals and journals, 2, 3, 4 of them over the course of 4 or 5 years of just a deep desire to feel better. And I became very intimately connected with the understanding of depression and anxiety, as well as coping mechanisms. Certainly in high school, drinking was a thing, and I was able to keep that at bay for a while, but it became a habit, and it became the numbing mechanism, being highly sensitive and being in a world that was not accepting of all of me, where my sensitivity, my softness, my joy was a liability. It didn't make sense. And I couldn't make sense of the world, and I couldn't understand how to get out of the pain that I was feeling. And that's really been a gift to be able to understand that when we are not able to fix our problems, when we feel that there are no other options, when we feel that there's no way out, the only way to deal with that is to numb within. And so some of the most precious, kind-hearted people that I've seen out there struggle with anxiety, depression, addiction for this reason, that we have this feeling that there is no other option. And that was a very significant part of my life all throughout my high school years, as well as into college and early adulthood. Um, at one point, my lowest point in my life, I was kicked out of my home, essentially, not really kicked out, if I'm fair to my mother. Um, she was with an abusive man, physically abusive, and I had had enough. I told her that I was going to tell the teachers at school, and she said, "You will not tell anyone." And I at that moment said, "I'm done." And of course, a mom who's struggling, obviously, hurt people. And her dare was, "You'll never survive out there alone." And sure enough, I had something to prove. So that night I crawled out the window at 16 years old. I was on my own for the rest of my young adult life into my adult life. And really turn to friends, which is what we find, especially with teenagers who don't have strong role models, don't have support mechanisms. They turn to friends. And those friends are not always a positive influence. In fact, typically they are in similar situations and can relate. And so at my darkest, I was living in my boyfriend's trailer, in his mom's trailer park, and there literally was no food. But we had money for, alcohol and other recreational activities to make sure we were numbing that pain. Um, and I remember when we looked in the cabinet and I was looking at a bag of sugar and a Kool-Aid packet and Wonder white bread. And that literally was the only sustenance in that trailer. And I had grown up in a middle class home, so that for me, that it was definitely a low moment, where we had at least had a home and food. And I remember having that realization that this cannot be my life, that I cannot live this way. And that was the first moment of strength, if you will, where I was finally pushed to the edge and I finally said, enough is enough. I am not going to live my life this way. And I was a highly intelligent young child. I was able to pass tests without going to school, which, isn't something to brag about, but I knew that there was something in me that was going to make this stop, to make it better. And I made a decision in that moment that I was going to move out of this small town. I was going to put myself through college and I was going to get a good job. And at least in that moment, the path that the world tells us we should follow served a purpose. It really did help me pull out of that place. And I made that decision. And from that day, I moved out of that boyfriend's house. I broke up with him. There was no more of those recreational activities. I completely turned myself around, graduated with um, a reward, award, award for most improved, I believe, which is really, again, not something to brag about, but, just kind of reiterating the place that I had come from and how I was able to turn it around and moving into a new city and putting myself through school and really starting to build those skills and understanding that there is an internal environment, that when we make the choice to change our circumstances and we pick ourselves up, we can do something about that. And so, even after starting to make those improvements, there were sort of fallbacks. And I'm a fan of astrology. And if you know anything about a retrograde, we kind of go back over these lessons, we learn them a second time, and then we can move forward. So 2 steps forward, 1 step back is a real thing for a reason. And so certainly there were those moments of stepping back and moving forward again. But what I really realized was, even though I was living the life that they say I should, there still was a level of dis-ease where I was still dealing with anxiety, still dealing with depression. I wasn't, struggling for food, and I wasn't struggling to find proper shelter, but I still was dealing with the ultimate core issues. And so I, was graduated from university, and had a partner, not necessarily a healthy relationship, a very narcissistic one at that, and really just kind of going back to those same moments that I had written in my journal of, why is this still not working? Why am I still struggling? What is it going to take to be happy? And finally, I came to the moment that I will never forget. And to this day, I credit the therapist that I went to see for basically saving my life. That I was in such a deep depression, I couldn't even see it. I couldn't see anything. I was so stuck in my head and mulling over the past and trying to figure out why things were difficult. Why was I in a narcissistic relationship? Why was I a nice person and yet bad things kept happening to me? Why wasn't the world kind? Why couldn't I be happy and joyful? Why didn't people like joy? And what I realized and what I learned from this therapist was the internal world. And this was one of the very first of many, many times that I would say, why didn't they teach me that in school? And so there was the moment that I woke up to my thoughts, the moment that I had clarity around my internal world. The moment I became the observer is really what it was. To be able to step outside of my body and to watch my body, to watch my thoughts, to see emotions, and not just to be a victim of them, not to be run by my own mind, but rather to use my mind as a tool. And the analogy came to me in the sessions with this therapist that we are like Ferraris being driven as Fords, that no one gave us the user manual on how to use this phenomenally sophisticated, beautiful machine of a body and mind and all of the mechanisms of all of our layers of our bodies and how to use it. And it was shocking and almost criminal in my mind that we would be allowed to go through life without being taught these things. And so, then the understanding of managing my thoughts was just the first step. Then we moved into managing emotions, and how do we process emotion, and how do we sit with that, and what is the inner child, and how do we speak to the inner child, and needs. We have needs. We have needs, and they are valid. And the moment my therapist told me your needs are valid and they should be met, I literally almost fell out of my chair. I was like, oh, you got to be kidding me. I knew they were hiding something from me. And it was just so beautiful to have that affirmation that I knew it. I knew that my needs deserved to be met. I knew that I didn't have to be depressed and anxiety. I knew that there were answers that I couldn't find. And so that is what has launched me into creating the business that I love today. There have been so many fascinating learnings around creation and how we are creators, that we are electromagnetic beings, and that's why we attract to us. Learning about thoughts and how they also are magnetic, and that our thoughts actually are things. Diving into the neuroscience around how thoughts are not only becoming things outside of us, but also physical structures in our brain called dendrites. And so it's just fascinating how all of this comes together in a place where we start to understand how to work with what we have, and even just focusing on your heart and how that can regulate the system and regulate the body, and how there are so many interconnections between our thoughts and what we think, and how our thoughts literally create the chemistry in our body, that the brain is the chemist of the body, and that we have control over the thoughts that we choose. And so as we choose right and true thoughts, accurate thoughts, not thoughts of sadness or frustration or anger or shame or guilt. In fact, I have found that none of those are beneficial ever. that all they do is create negative chemistry in our body, increasing the stress hormones, which turn on the genes that we don't want turned on and create disease in the body. And rather choosing thoughts, even if we're in a lower emotion, even if we've come against a struggle, we are in an unwanted place, or we're experiencing an unwanted situation, where we can view that with true perspective, accurate perspective, which is a divine higher perspective that helps us see this unwanted thing is actually a gift. It is here to help me see what I need to change and what my blocks are and how to move through them, and to say thank you, and how to have that constant thought track in the back of our mind. And I'm sure you've noticed that you can be having a conversation with somebody and also thinking about what you want to have for lunch. And so we've got this ability in our brain to have two tracks going. And as we cultivate the neurochemistry and the neurobiology necessary to create the thought habits, the dendrites, the neurobiology necessary to maintain this on a subconscious level, we can also have that running in the background as we are engaging in life. And that is how we remain connected to our divinity and to our source all throughout every day, all day. And that is when we're open to infinite inspiration, infinite guidance. And when we start to use all of these different mechanisms, I'm giving you this much of, the master class that I offer, because there's so much and it's so fascinating and it's so fun, that when we can learn to master our minds, our emotions, our bodies, and drive our Ferrari properly, that life is so beautiful. And it is so fun and it is so fascinating. And to be able to create with our creator, to co-create all the time. And the beauty of it all is, and by definition, manifestation is easy. It is fun. It flows. We are not designed to carry the load, to fight the fight, to bear the weight of the world. That those negative lower emotions, they sit with us in dis-ease for a reason, because they are not ours, and they are not right, and they are not helpful, they are not necessary, and they are not kind, to quote Buddha. We are not designed to do the heavy lifting. We are kind of like a beacon or a Tesla tower, that we draw in the energy and it funnels through us, and then we let it flow through and out so that we can contribute to the world. And ultimately, all of these lessons, all of these learnings, all of the difficult situations that I went through, they boiled down to one thing. And there was a time where I was pondering my life purpose and pondering, how do I get from this life that they say I should live to the life that I know that I'm meant to lead, in only at a subconscious level, only from a feeling level. I did not have the blueprint or the map, even though, being in the corporate world, I had a 5-year roadmap for my product, but I didn't have one for my life. And really sitting back and asking, what is it going to take to get from where I am to where I'm trying to go? And it was from a feeling state, which made it even more challenging to comprehend. But then even taking a step back and asking, what does the world need? What do we all want? Because we are all connected and we're all struggling with similar things in different ways. And if you're struggling with something today, I challenge you, I suggest going out and mentioning to someone, because I can guarantee you, if you talk to enough people and you're brave enough to make those connections, you will find you are not alone, that we are all going through very, very similar things, just with different layers of icing on the cake. And so when I took that step back, and I was really deeply introspective into myself as well as the collective, what do we all need? And what we need is to be valuable, to be valued, to be heard, to be seen, to be contributing. And through my experience and all of the clients that I've coached, the pain happens when we are forcing ourselves to live a life we are not meant to live. When we're following the should, right? They should all over us. The joy happens when we surrender to our intuition. We start to know who we are. We listen to ourselves. We meet our own needs. We honor our needs, and we step into our gifts, because you are perfectly designed. You are perfectly imperfect for your purpose. You are not an accident. You were never going to just happenstance in this body the way you are. It's a 1 in 4 billion chance that that sperm would meet the egg and that you would be here in your form with all of your characteristics. That is not an accident. Statistically impossible. You are made with intention and you have a gift. You are here for a purpose. And when you step into that purpose, every ounce of your being comes alive. I love just saying it and sharing it with you because I light up inside. The God bumps light me up and tell me you're on the right track. I know that my innocence, my bubbliness, my sensitivity, my naivety, right? All of those things that the world thought was wrong with me, those were a liability for the majority of my life until I stepped into my life purpose. And I can guarantee you, the moment I realized that all of me is not only okay, but it's right and it's perfect and it's valuable and it allows me to hold you and to hold space for you and to love on you and be your cheerleader as your coach, to be able to sense what you need and feel intuitively where things need to go, to be vibrant and alive and remind you that this is possible. All of those things that the world said was wrong with me became my asset. And I can promise you that whatever you struggle with in yourself, whatever has caused you depression and anxiety, all of those things have purpose. They have intention. And that when you embrace the knowing that's already in you, that the things that you struggle with don't have to be anymore, that you don't have to do the heavy lifting. And in all of those fears, they're false evidence appearing real, that the birds don't struggle to eat and the trees don't struggle to find water, nor will you struggle to survive. And especially, you will not struggle to step into your life purpose. Because as soon as you surrender in full faith that God, the divine, the universe, your creator, whatever you want to call it, a rose by any other name still smells as sweet, it doesn't matter. That as soon as you surrender in faith to that energy that you are loved, you are made with intention, and you have a purpose, and then just start asking questions, right? Asking questions means you are as king. That puts you in a seat of power. When you have limiting beliefs and say, I don't have a gift, I don't have a purpose, I can't do this because I have to feed my family, I can't do this because I have to pay my bills, I can't, right? You are powerful. You are a creator, and you are always creating, whether you realize it or not. And unfortunately, we've all been creating on autopilot or inadvertently without conscious intention. So the question really is, when are you going to start creating with intention? As soon as you start to say, I am, instead of I can't, or even if you can't get to the I am, if you're not truly believing that, that's fine. I understand we have to be in belief. Ask the question, how can I do this? And this is what's going to start to open things up for you, and you will start to come alive. So my long-winded story, but as far as how I got to this place, it came from experience. And I had a degree after graduating college, and it gave me the in, they would say, oh, University of Illinois, that's a good school, right? But really, ultimately, at the end of the day, it wasn't until I had the experience that I truly became a valuable asset. And so that's my doctorate to offer to you, is 27 years of experience in the negative, and now where am I at? Almost 15 years post that, in experiencing the joy and the bliss and managing all of this beautiful mechanism that we have been gifted. And so I can offer you 3 tips today, at the highest possible level, to distill what takes me 12 weeks to teach. I would say the 3 secrets to happiness are: 1, mindset. And mindset really means connection to everything that is in you, because ultimately what we put into our bodies, from a thought process, from a verbal process, from a nutritional process, they all impact the body, but it really does start with the mindset. And so number 1 is mindset. Number 2, step into your life purpose. Find out what you're good at. I have many, many tips and tricks on how to do that. It is a process. Your life purpose is very rarely gifted to you on a sticky note that remains stagnant forever. It usually is a process of alchemy, and that's why I offer a 12-month group along with the 12-week course to support that, as well as manifestation. You are a creator, and I was very hesitant to teach manifestation at first. I think there's a lot of hype, and there's a lot of bypassing that happens because of it. So I'm not a proponent of the easy way. It is not always going to be super easy, although it's a whole lot easier once you've stepped into your life purpose and you have learned how to direct your abilities to create. So you are creators, and we're going to create either way. So I really can't avoid it. So learning how to manifest, learning how to use your Ferrari instead of driving it like a Ford. So those are the steps that I would suggest. Certainly you can reach out to me if you would like any support in moving further and deeper into this. Like I said, I do offer a 12-week course that will cover everything that you need to know, from mindset, physical nutrition, as well as emotion processing. We spend half of the course on mindset work. And then we also move into subconscious reprogramming and manifestation, as well as identifying your life purpose, really getting to know who you are, what your strengths are, what's your astrology blueprint, what's your love language, what's your strengths, your gifts. There's so many different facets to who you are, and knowing yourself is going to be really key in understanding what you need and where your fit is going to be in the world. And I would say one of the biggest keys to your life purpose is knowing that your gift is meant for you to give away. And you don't have to be like me with the desire to change the world. Gardening and tending to Mother Earth may be your life purpose, and that's okay too. But the world needs you. The world needs you to step into your gift. Now is the time. It has never been a better time, especially with Venus retrograde. This is the time of understanding and reevaluating what is your worth, what is your value, and how can you contribute it to the world. And so Marie Forleo says it best. I always want to give her credit, but the world needs the special gift that only you have. And that's the key, is nobody else can do what you are designed to do. You are needed. And collectively, we're kind of like a puzzle where we all fit together and we need each other. And your weaknesses are not a negative. Your weaknesses are the opportunity for other people to come in. And so your task is to develop your gifts and really step into them and grow them, because they will grow significantly. Especially in the beginning, you'll kind of have that thought like, I don't know if I have a gift. I don't know if I can do anything special. But then go talk to your neighbor, go talk to your mother, go talk to your husband or your partner, whoever, and ask, what do I do well? And I guarantee you, they're going to come back with something that might seem surprising to you, because likely one of your gifts or one of the facets of your gift is likely something that you do so effortlessly that it doesn't seem like a gift. And so as you start to bring awareness to these things, you start to exercise them and use them, they start to grow, and you become more and more powerful in that vein, and your gift expands, and it's ever expanding, because we are here to grow and evolve and expand. And so I guarantee you, not only do you have gifts today, but that you will find more and more of them and find out more about them as you explore. So getting a little off track here. So yes, life purpose is a very big piece of the course that I offer. And then on top of that, I think it's really important that we as beautiful spiritual beings, that we start to step into our abundance. That abundance is our birthright. And we were gifted this beautiful planet and everything on it, and the gift of being responsible for it. And so if all of this was gifted to us, how could we possibly believe that financial abundance is not part of that? And there's a lot of scary changes happening in the world today. And there's a lot of negative things that were done with money. And we as spiritual beings have the responsibility to step into being stewards of that abundance, that it is now time that we embrace our birthright, and we start to use the abundance and the resources that we are gifted to create heaven on earth. And so part of that and part of my course is how to make a living, how to support yourself, right? We have to be able to put a roof over our mouth and food in or a roof over our head and food in our mouth. And so part of that is having a business. And I had 20 years in the corporate world in product development at an executive level. So certainly if you want to go down the path of developing a physical product, that experience is there, as well as I've built softwares and of course online courses and teaching. So any aspect of business that you may need will also be covered in the course. So we do business 101 as well as of course marketing and sales, because that'll go along with that. So now is the time. Now is the time. It is time to step into all that you have been gifted, all that is yours by divine rights, and make this world a beautiful place. And I have faith in you. I have faith in every single one of you that you are a beautiful, beautiful divine being, and you're part of what's coming. You're part of building heaven on earth. If you're here right now watching this, there's no accident, that it's time. And 2022 or 2022, what a better year to start creating. And it's probably going to take us a few years to really see the momentum behind it. So you're on the ground level right now, but this is the time to jump in.